Yellow. Israel Adesanya is going to be a greatest of all time. The moment he said I could have been finer with my technique, right at the end, instantly, I saw his greatness. Well, I did see a spark of something special in his first fight in the UFC. I did believe he was going to be something very special in this world, and I made a lot of content in regards to that. But now, just imagine every fighter who's ever accomplished a legendary status, one that not only impressed the fans, but moved them and shook up a culture throughout that process. They were never perfect. Every one of them had their bumps along the way, but throughout that process where others wilted in denial, the great, they transcended by accepting the reality and figuring out where they could improve. It is very simple, but at the same time, perhaps one of the hardest things anyone could ever do, yet here he is, making it look simple.
If I was gonna lose to anyone, what better guy to lose to than a guy like Jan, a classy champion, on his way of getting cut from the company, comes back and then dominates, becomes a light heavyweight champion, and then hands this guy, a future legend, his first loss. Yeah, I lost the fight to the better fighter tonight. No regrets. No regrets. It's kind of fun. I look forward to this is the dip in my story. You know what I mean? This is the bit where, the valley, if you will. And then I rise up again like the phoenix that I am.
That's a common depiction of greatness. That's what Israel Adesanya did the moment the decision went the other way. He accepted reality and sought to improve near instantly. He made something very hard look very simple, and as a result, that's what he's been doing throughout his entire career, with his beautiful style. For the most part, he's been schooling people, making it look easy, when in truth, the amount of time, study, dedication, suffering it took to get to that point, it often goes underappreciated. Nonetheless though, to his decision defeat versus Jan Blachowicz, on the stand-up, Israel Adesanya looked amazing versus someone who crushed Dominic Reyes, and considering how Dominic looked versus John Jones, the feat in and of itself was glorious. Jan Blachowicz just doesn't get the respect he deserves, and because of that, I think it's still very hard to imagine what Israel Adesanya had just accomplished. And it's so strange as well. Why are the judges handing out 10-8 rounds for that fight? Where did Israel Adesanya get beat up? He didn't get beat up anywhere. Is it because Jan got takedowns and held a dominant position? Because that makes it even rougher for jiu-jitsu. You already look like you're winning when you're on top, and now there's the possibility of getting a 10-8 round for it. Jan Blachowicz, he couldn't really hammer Israel Adesanya with anything substantial either, because when he was on top, if he'd start to rock his mass around too much to deliver more force, he might give Israel space to exit the positions he was in. I don't know. I didn't see Israel even look like he was hurt anywhere in that fight. He took some punches, but he pretty much rolled with most of them, if not all of them, because he never showed a break in composure. He never looked like he was hurt. With that said, Israel Adesanya never seemed like he was being crushed and mauled, cracked and concussed. He was always composed, he always looked fine, and he was progressing intelligently. He was in bad positions and he did take punches, but I don't think anyone can remember where he was actually beat up. Nonetheless though, the end decision was fair, and I do believe mass had a role as to why. Now, it's not my place to say mass alone is what won this fight, but I can confidently say mass is an advantage. If you have two people of the same attributes and same skills, the moment you give one person an increase in mass that does not compromise how they function, that person from then on has an advantage, and there's a specific reason as to why. It is because a lot of what good technique is balance and form, maximizing leverage. Of course there are catalysts to that. With enough fast twitch, you can actually compensate for that form, but there's of course a cost in that you'll expend more energy, you'll get tired faster using technique that is not good, and you won't be able to leverage the full potential of your power. Another one though is mass. If you know how to use your mass, whether it be in striking or a takedown, riding certain positions, essentially you can have gravity do the work for you, or in accelerating an advantage in mass, you can gain an advantage in the force you can generate. It's a real advantage when it comes to fighting, and I think Daniel Cormier is a perfect example of this, where at first glance, sure, he does look like a super athlete, but if you look at how brilliantly he uses his mass, you realize it's largely his understanding of what to do when, paired with his balance and form when executing techniques. Physical ability, mass, they're catalysts to this. They're catalysts to the effectiveness of good technique. But even when he should be at a physical disadvantage in a division full of Goliaths, he still ragdolls that world due to his difference in understanding. It's due to the difference in understanding, with the notable equalizer being he increased his mass for that division. Thus, it granted his techniques more leverage to compensate. In the case of Jan Blachowicz, reducing the amount of space and making it more difficult for Israel Adesanya to create space, everyone watching kind of knew Israel's striking was so good that he still looked amazing versus this bigger man who crushed Dominic Reyes. No one was expecting that to happen, but it did. The moment Jan Blachowicz got a takedown though and decided to hold certain positions, it looked like Israel Adesanya had a lot of trouble making the space he needed to escape. Nonetheless though, the fact he was making it difficult for such a bigger black belt to get to mount and just wail on him. The fact he never really got wailed on at all. Jan had to respect him as well, even in the stand-up, despite being the bigger man. He couldn't just walk Israel down. The moment he tried to get reckless for even 1 second, you saw Jan take a big ding, and just like that, the game had to be about respect again. Even at a bigger weight division, you have to respect Israel's stand-up. With that said, Israel Adesanya never looked like he was hurt. It's a testament to how truly good Israel is. He's truly something special. The size difference Jan had was absolutely terrifying. Looking at him and looking at Israel, it was a notable difference. His back, the presence he had lumbering around in comparison, but remaining cool and picking his shots, he never let Jan disrespect him for being smaller. You couldn't. He's too dangerous. Even when Jan tried to force his way in, boom! One ding. Just like that forced Jan, this bigger man, to respect him again. Jan Blachowicz. Perhaps one of the most underappreciated beasts to ever grace that division, because again, Jan did this to Dominic Reyes. No one thought that could happen. Especially with the way Dominic looked versus John Jones. Israel Adesanya is a beast. I have no doubt that he'll be recognized as a GOAT in this sport, a greatest of all time. That's the natural result of not just his proclivity towards boldness, but his mental and eagerness to grow in order to meet his great vision. He'll be a greatest of all time. Now, I'd like to share some finishing sentiments. Muhammad Ali. Those who are unwilling to take risks will achieve nothing in life. And this is true regardless of arena. This is something we all have to face to some extent, to either stay the same or to take a risk hoping you can extend, thus ascend to a new paradigm. Whether it be the student who's picking between courses, the man or woman asking for a promotion, you never know. You never know. Nonetheless though, unless you're willing to take risks, you will achieve nothing in life. And that's just life. We all have to take risks to some extent, but the greater the risk, the greater the reward. This man chose greatness far beyond the norm. That is what he sought for himself. Unfortunately, in his pursuit he fell short, but the truth remains. Those who are unwilling to take risks will accomplish nothing in life. Thus, he still gained something very precious, a lesson. Through it, he'll have better chances the next time. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, peace.